The workspace in Combustion is basically two different components. First of all, the workspace is what you're looking at here. The entire interface is considered a workspace, and it can change depending on what you've applied to your footage or your composite. Now, the great concept of a workspace is that I could create a special effect. For example, I can have text blurring and fading in and out and a lens flare, and I can have it explode and all that kinds of stuff. And I could save that as a workspace, and then I could email it or put it on a disk and send it to a friend or a coworker, and they can open that workspace up, and they can see all the tools I've used and all the effects I've applied, and then they could manipulate it and make it their own. So if I had the word hunter in the composite and I added all kinds of special effects to it, they could open the workspace up on their computer, and then they could change the word, and all the effects will still be applicable to that word that they've added or changed. So a workspace is a cool concept. You can also import workspaces. Now, if you have Combustion, I would highly recommend you visit the Discrete website, because they have a billion different workspaces they've created for you. And there are workspaces all over the web that you can open in your own version of Combustion, manipulate, and then create your own workspace from that. Now, as I said, there are two parts of a workspace, and the other part of that is within this area here. As you see here, this is the Workspace tab, and this contains all of the elements that make up my composite. Now, here I have the composite level of my workspace. This is called Bridge Run in this particular case, because I have this character running across a bridge to fight these robots. The workspace works like a tree, and it works based on branches. This is the branch called Bridge Run. This is the composite, and these icons indicate the layers that belong to the composite. Now, these three little pieces of paper here represent a composite. These two sheets of paper represent your layers, and this is your light and camera, and that will go on and off depending on whether you're working in a 2D workspace, as you see they went off, or a 3D workspace, and we're going to cover that a little later on. Now, if I expand one of these branches by clicking on these expander arrows here, I can see I have more stuff in there. In this case, I have a paint operator, and an operator in Combustion just means an effect or a filter or some technique that you apply to a layer or a composite itself. So I could draw some words with the paint operator, I could use a text operator, I could do all kinds of special effects with operators, and they are applied to either the layers themselves, the footage, or a composite. And once again, this will be more clear once we get more into these lessons. Now, I also have this footage operator, and this is the actual footage, the movie itself. So if I hide that, you'll see that that particular piece of footage is gone. So I have my composite, my layers, my operators, and my footage operators. And if I expand all of these, you see that it's pretty much the same all throughout. Now you'll notice something very interesting here. I have this icon which says footage, and this icon that says footage. These tell me that this is a sequence of stills that have made this particular footage. So I have 195 different pictures, or in this case 220 different pictures that make up this particular animation. So when I was in Lightwave, I rendered out each frame individually and then brought them together in Combustion. And that's indicated once again by the 3 sheets of paper here. Now the reason that the clouds footage has a piece of film next to it is because that was an actual QuickTime movie that I imported into the composite. So I can hide that as well. And as you see here, all you have to do is hide and show pieces of your workspace and just click on the little icons next to the name. And that will hide that object. You can even hide layers. Now we have our light and our camera, because once again I mentioned that we are in a 3D composite, and we also have our footage library, and this represents all the footage that is in our composite. If you see it italicized like this, that means it's being used in the composite. And you can actually import tons of footage that you're going to use later on, and then once you do use it in the composite, it will italicize as well. Okay, so that's our workspace, and you'll be spending quite a bit of time here. And it works hand in hand with the toolbar, as we mentioned in the last lesson. So these are the two pieces of the combustion puzzle that you'll be spending quite a bit of time in, and we're going to cover these guys in just a moment.